Okay, we're going to finish off now with our final part. Can we all make our way back to our chairs, please? We've got just over an hour left and we have to finish quite sharpish today. So if everyone can get back and sit down, and we will commence the final part. So, everyone sitting down. So to finalise our conference, our final part is going to be the team of Public Child Protection Wales. They will be coming up onto the stage and giving some real good insights. So we are going to be starting with Joan Ginsberg. Woo! So I'm just going to say a couple of words about Joan before she comes on the stage. So Joan has had a few roles in her life, but her paid work has been largely centred around different aspects of teaching from which she retired. This experience has led her to believe that the teaching system could be so much better than it currently is, with only one simple infusion of logic and empathy. She once had a primary school headmaster that she loved, whose motto was, "Everyone is good at something, even if it's only standing still and breathing." She thinks that concept is lacking in teaching today. By now, she's dedicates quite a lot, loads of time and energy into her commitment to PCPW, which she joined in 2020. During this time, she's covered thousands of miles with them in all countries of the UK, and she's also trained alongside Kim to become a fully accredited RSC teacher in order to become part of a more efficient, authentic team. So let's all welcome Joan with a massive round of applause. Woo! Well done. Are you taking a seat there, Joan? Okay. She's going to do a Vernon Coleman. There we are. I've got a mic for you there. Okay. Where should we put this then? Is that all right there? Yeah. It's on there, okay.
Well, I have to say, it's just incredible to be here today, you know, because to have a little idea that's actually grown into a real thing is just overwhelming, overpowering. And I can't thank you all enough for coming. But the first thing I want to say is, we shouldn't be here. I'm so angry that we shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to climb into our cars. We shouldn't have to climb onto trains to be doing this. Why? There's something very wrong, isn't there? And I think we're all feeling that. We're all fed up. What I'm trying to do today with this talk, which I'm going to have to read because Kim said to me, "Oh, you can talk about anything." And it was like the dawn chorus in my head. It was going crazy. So I thought, the only way I can do this is to put my words down, because it's just impossible otherwise. So I do hope you'll bear with me, because I'm going to be reading it out. And I might have to edit, which I'm not very good at on the hoof. So here goes. I want to start with a poem. And it's a poem that, well, it tore at my heartstrings. And it was written by a teacher. It was written by a teacher just after the war, and he lost all his comrades on the boat that he was serving in. He happened to be on land at the time. And he came back, and he taught in the village school that he'd always worked at previous to that, and that he'd gone to as a child. And so he was a real community man. And this is about one of the boys that he taught. And the point of my talk is, these kids are always here, but sometimes they're in this position, they're in this wretched position simply because of government policies which should never have been implemented and which were crazy to begin with. And we're going to have bad consequences. And this is what we've been putting up with for years and years and years. Not just me, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. This is historical. So there's something really, really bad going on in our society when this is carrying on. And I just hope I'm putting my point forward enough for you to understand that that is where I'm coming from. You know, who are the people doing it? What kind of people are imposing this on us? Because we can't relate to them. They're not the kind of people that we really want to mix with. And yet we're having to fight them in a polite way. None of us want to be polite. I thought there was going to be a picture up behind me of me somewhere or other. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I just wanted to say that this trip that I've been on with PCPW, I can never say it. Honest to God, every time I say PCPW, I have to really concentrate on it, you know? It's crazy. But this trip has been, well, it's had me standing for Parliament. That was fun. It's had me, what else? It's had me in bits. It's had me hysterical with laughter. It's taken me all over the place. And it's also taken me to a cell for 10 hours. And I don't recommend it to anybody who's got a gourmet appetite, because the only thing they offered me was a Frosty bar for 10 hours. Honest to God. But that's another story. So here's the poem, and it's by Charles Causley. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him. He's got some very moving poems, and I really hope I can do it justice. And I've spilt water all over it, so bear with me. Timothy Winters is the name. Timothy Winters comes to school with eyes as wide as a football pool, ears like bombs and teeth like splinters. A blitz of a boy is Timothy Winters. His belly is white, his neck is dark, and his hair is an exclamation mark. His clothes are enough to scare a crow. And through his breeches, the blue winds blow. When teacher talks, he won't hear a word. And he shoots down dead the arithmetic bird. He licks the pattern off his plate. And he's not even heard of the welfare state. Timothy Winters has bloody feet. And he lives in a house on Suey Street. He sleeps in a sack on the kitchen floor. And they say there aren't boys like him anymore. Old man Winters likes his beer, and his missus ran off with a bombardier. Grandma sits in the grate with a gin, and Timothy's dosed with an aspirin. The welfare worker lies awake, but the law's as tricky as a 10-foot snake. So Timothy Winters drinks his cup and slowly goes on growing up. A morning prayers, the master helves for children less fortunate than ourselves. And the loudest response in the room is when Timothy Winters says, Amen. So come one angel. Come on, 10. Timothy Winters says, Amen, 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 Amen. Timothy Winters, Lord, Amen. So that was the poem. And Charles Causley said, people always ask me whether this was a real boy. My God, he certainly was. Poor old boy, I didn't know where he is now. I was thunderstruck when people thought I'd made it up. He was a real bloke. Poor little devil. And we all know so many poor little devils, don't we? I remember one that used to come to my house, a little London boy. He was a poor little devil. He used to sleep under his sister's bed. His mother worked at night, put it that way. And he showed me the mask that the man of the house, whoever he was, used to kick him up to bed with. Used to frighten him with the mask and kick him up to bed, as he said, little East End boy. So we've got these people in our society, and parents are always going to go wrong. But what does the state do about it? What kind of tactics do they take in order to deal with it? So I want to go back a little bit in history, if you don't mind, just to show how our government can be kind and thoughtful towards children not. So I think that poem sums up the reason why we all come here today. Because we hate to see children in distress and feel an urge to help when we witness it. I mean, who doesn't? It has to take a weird person not to, doesn't it? And why do so many people seem to find our message so hard to accept? These are things that we at PCPW have often pondered on. We hit on the idea that perhaps some of the people who refuse leaflets on the street, you get that all the time, people put their head down and just walk past, that some of these people might perhaps be unable to accept them because of some kind of previous trauma. But what can you say of the people that are actually causing the damage and the trauma right now? It looks like they don't see children in that protective and concerned way. The same ones that use them as a bargaining chip or a way to make money or even save money. What kind of people are they? When we look back over the years, it seems obvious that they've been there all the time, hiding in plain sight, these kind of people. Childhood trauma and the British state's role in it is not an uplifting title for a talk, and I do apologise in advance. However, I think it's necessary conversation and one not heard often enough. How child-centred is our government? And for that matter, how child-centred are we as a nation, a people, not just the government, a people? We know that we're a nation of dog lovers, that much goes without saying, but just how much funding, research and thought goes into government initiatives to improve children's lives at the point of most need. And most need for a lot of children is so critical. If they don't get that treatment, that help that they need at a particular time in their life that's critical, they can be goners for the rest of the time. You know, I've seen children, when I've been working as a home tutor, that barricaded themselves in the bedroom and wouldn't come out. That boy was 15 at the time. He's 30-odd now. He's still on tranquilizers. He's got a life back, but it's a reduced life. And reduced lives, we all need our potential. And we all need our potential for this particular fight. Maybe that's why some people aren't standing up, because they haven't got it within them, because they're too wounded. So after reading some of the stories of the victims that I'm talking about now, the problem is that it's not just the government that were hurting these children, it was also the general public. and their perception of them. I mean, you know, think of the grooming gangs and the kind of perception, the kind of nasty arrogance that people had against those children who were in desperate need of an arm around them, desperate need of someone to understand them, not blame them. So maybe all the blame doesn't lie at the door of the government. That's equally worrying in some ways. Because what do we do about us? What do we do about people that aren't responding? The public? Because we all need to be clamouring. So I can't help wondering how much lack of empathy might be caused by trauma that's lain dormant. Whether that trauma has happened to a rich little boy sent to public school who cries himself to sleep many of the night. And that's not nice. You know, they may be rich, but they've got feelings like anyone else, and they're going to be harmed by this process. And I'm sure they have. I think the BBC's done a series about it. I don't know how good it is, and I don't recommend the BBC anyway, but occasionally they pull something out of the bag. So there is something on the iPlayer, whatever it's called, sounds. So if it's a boy who is from a privileged background, or if it's a poor child that's witnessing domestic abuse at home, it's bad. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. And there are still forms of abuse, and both types of children pay the price, whether they become a politician or a scaffolder. Doesn't make any difference. They might both suffer from the same detachment and lack of trust as each other, both symptoms of childhood trauma. If that is the case, then there is a good chance that our politicians and legislators, our ministers, and people of high influence might all have been victims of abuse. I mean, just think about the RSC curriculum. There has to be some pretty dark seed that spawned the worst elements of that. The minds that created that do not come cheaply. They do not have the mild manner of Timothy Winters, who is abused, but he doesn't even realise it, and he's praying for the other little children in need. They're not like that, because they see children as dispensable in the name of a greater cause very often, or it might be expediency, you know, money, might be saving money, might even be making money on children. So there are means to an end, whether it's climbing a greasy pole for an academic or selling them life-changing operations and medication. This is a quote from Professor E.J. Reynolds, who we all know about. And I think this is one of her pet beliefs, to be honest with you. Let me see. Okay, so what did she write in... I don't even want to say the name of her books. I don't want to give her that much respect. I mean, she's written words. They're not books to me. Much of the neglect surrounding children's sexualities stems from a historical and current preoccupation with the conceptualization of children and childhood as innocent and innocence. See her English? It's weird. So what she's saying is that children aren't really innocent, and childhood doesn't have such a thing as innocence attached to it. That's what she's saying. And she goes on, it gets worse. She puts a bracket. Oh, hang on a minute. This is the important bit. Indeed, the historical separation of children from the adult world, or othering of children. See, othering? How can you make other a verb? It's never been a verb in my life until now. It's hinged wholly on children's exclusion from, she's put a bracket round it, but let's say it, adult sexuality. I'll read it again. The historical separation of children from the adult word or othering of children has hinged wholly on children's exclusion from adult sexuality. So what does that mean? Okay, so that's enough of this woman, actually. Does she mean adult or doesn't she? She put a bracket round it, but it's still there. She basically is on fire to see children in a sexualized world belonging to adults. And it doesn't get any worse. Does she think in her childhood studies, which that apparently is her subject, has she ever thought about SEN children? Has she ever thought about disabled or emotionally disturbed children, sexually abused children? She doesn't think about children. She doesn't care about children, basically. All she cares about is getting up that greasy pole, getting a nice little position. And she's supposed to be an expert. So on the topic of mental health, let's start with a quick wander around some mental health statistics for 15 to 16-year-olds in England. And believe you me, that's a very critical time for a child's development. In a 2016 paper published by no other than the Royal Society of Psychiatrists, entitled "The Scandal of the Underfunded Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services." And here are some quotes. Some local NHS areas are spending less than £10 a head on the mental health of children and young people in their communities. £10. There are 52 clinical commissioning groups in England that are allotting less than 5% of their total mental health budget to services for children and young people between 15 and 16 years old. 1 in 10 children of this age group has a diagnosable mental health disorder. 1 in 10. I bet it's more by now. I bet it's far more. More than half of all adults with mental health problems were diagnosed in childhood, and less than half were treated appropriately at the time. Less than half. So all this means by now that we have a high number of traumatized adults who are becoming parents. Nice one. Some will do a great job, but the odds would seem to be stacked against them. Will it ever end? All this trauma? Why weren't those kids an urgent priority? If we're a nation of children lovers, why not? It doesn't seem to be the case. And still, Timothy Winters forgives us. He still thinks he's one of that club, No Child Left Behind. Do you remember them? The bright new privileged generation of the 21st century, according to our educationalists. And didn't it sound grand? I mean, what kind of person would leave a child behind? What heartless people would want to do that, for goodness sake? But it seems okay to leave them desperate. That seems fine. All this carnage and distress for the want of what? Few measly quid, basically. And that has so often been the case that a pattern has to be emerging. It's all about money. From the shameful care home abuses up and down Britain, money and ideology. The care home cases up and down Britain, which we've all found so disgusting. And we all thought, my God, heads are going to roll. Theresa May said, heads are going to roll. Did they? Did a single head roll? And what happened to all the files? They just seemed to disappear down people's trouser legs. A third of them, from what I believe. And we're standing for this. We as a people are standing for this. There's something very wrong. In Belgium, I don't know how many it was, I've seen different amounts, but when they had the Dutroux case in Belgium, you might have heard of it, it was a terrible scandal. There were thousands and hundreds of thousands of people in Brussels marching on the street. The government had to do something at that stage. And how do files manage to disappear in an age of photocopiers, for goodness sake? They've been around a long time, even in the 80s. So there's no justice, no reparation for these kids. Oh, sorry, kids, that's just how it is, but we've written reports and lessons will be learnt if that helps. So they just have to go and crawl away and lick their own wounds and just feel that everyone is against them. Everyone. So how come they weren't taken seriously? How come so much money was spent? They flew a judge from New Zealand. They flew her back again. She got paid some nice fat wage. And what happened to those kids? Nothing. Nothing. I'm going to cut this short fairly soon, but I just want to take a little walk through history just to make you realise the kind of teeth these successive sharks of government have had and how they're chewing up kids. So one of the kindly initiatives I mentioned a while back that the British government introduced to shelter children and keep them from harm, well, one of the earliest I want to refer to is the one of, it sounds like long time ago, but bear in mind my grandma was 10 when this happened, and that's the Boer War. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the Boer War. It was like any war, it was a very dirty game. And it's always seems to be the kids that carried the trauma. So basically, one thing that's not contested about this war, which was 1898 to 1902, was that it was one of the bloodiest that the British government had gone to war over. It was a cause that they'd gone to war over. And it was the bloodiest, and it was the longest, and, you know, it's got to be one of the dirtiest. 27,000 Boer women and children died in the concentration camps. And Boer, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's like an ethnicity. They were partly German, partly Dutch farmers that were working away in South Africa. So they were mainly they were taken into concentration camps. These were concentration camps, okay? And make no bones about it. Yeah, I'm being told to wind up. So it's just that it's so hard because all these are children. And it should be breaking our heart. And these children aren't mentioned. These children aren't mentioned. They don't even get the last post, do they? They don't get their name on a grave, an unknown soldier's grave. They don't get any recognition from our society. And yet we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands. And not just during the Boer War. It happened also, for example, during Operation Pied Piper in the Second World War, where lots of little children were taken from their parents, and much propaganda was put into place in order to do that. It took propaganda. Why? If parents really thought, my kid is going to get bombed and I've got to do something about this, and they thought it naturally, I think by hook or by crook, many of them would have done it, and many of them did. But the government had to have, newspapers, they had to have magazines, they had to have a whole arm of propaganda in order to bring that about. And what happened to those kids? No one knows. Their stories are just untold. A lot of them went, a lot of them had a wonderful time. A lot of them became adopted, not a lot, but some. And it was hunky-dory. For some people had never seen the countryside before, but for others, it was the worst time of their life, and they could tell no one. They couldn't come home and tell the parents. It was just, again, they are nameless soldiers in a war against children that has always been going on. And I've got so much more to say, but so has Kim, and so has everyone else. But I just want you to think about that. You know, why are we allowing it to happen? Have we got cross-generational trauma? We've all got trauma in our own lives. The government is causing PTSD amongst everyone now. We need to heal ourselves if we're going to fight. And we need to recognize our own trauma and what hurts for us. Because otherwise, they're going to keep us weak. And that's the whole idea. Keeping us weak, keeping us undermined, keeping us with stories we can't tell. Even to our best friends, even to our family. How can parents tell their children about the sexual abuse that they might have experienced when they were being sent away? And it isn't just during the war. I would love to have talked about all the things that were going on in the sense of government initiatives where children were sent away. Hundreds and thousands went overseas because they were poor. They were told that their parents no longer lived sometimes. They were classed as orphans. And meanwhile, their parents were looking for them for years and years. And they were looking for their parents on the other side of the ocean. Some of them died. Some of them committed suicide, hung themselves in barns. You know, the trauma never ends. And a lot of it is caused, so much of it is caused by government policies and by people that have been traumatized themselves. So trauma breeds trauma. We need to break the cycle. We need to do something about this. We need to stand up in our own skins and say, enough. We're not having any more of this. And the government can do one.
Thank you so much, Joan. That was very insightful. Thank you. So I'm not going to do a big introduction for our last two speakers. You all know who they are. They are actually the most researched people I know, I've got to say. So can we just do a huge round of applause for Kat, Watkins and Kim Isherwood.
Okay, guys, so I am wary of the time. I was going to play a video at the beginning. I don't know if we're going to have time. It's a 6-minute video. Should we just go straight? Yeah. Should I do it? All right, okay. This video is important because this is where comprehensive sexuality, actually, we've shown you where it's come from. These are the people involved in promoting it and actually, well, they're the activists for it. So let's have a look who they are.
Adults would feel that a developed consideration for children would involve leaving children alone sexually to find their own way for themselves with their own peer groups and not with adults.
Yes, I would be all in favour of children finding their own way sexually, but I think also that adults have a part to play, because children are one part of the whole society. It isn't the society where we separate children from adults.
What do you feel?
I feel that PI is not a procurement agency for children, never has been and never will be. Our political objectives include developing a society where children are given a much higher status than today, where they are recognised as individuals in their own right, and this includes recognising their right to certain sexual freedoms whilst protecting them from the kind of criminal assaults which took place in Brighton.
But surely it's a question of recognising children's maturity, and how can you have an equal relationship, which is what I take a mature sexual relationship to be, between an adult and a child who is not mature in body, in mind, or personal awareness? It has to be unequal.
I don't accept that this concept of maturity at all. Adults, for instance, aren't necessarily mature. It's a long process.
So I take it for granted that no adult is probably ever mature, but nevertheless, my state of maturity, or your state of maturity, is clearly different from that of a child of 12. How can there be an equal relationship which allows them sex, which is usually a shocking experience for everybody at some time or another? How can you allow an equal relationship between two people so unequally positioned at the starting off point?
I don't accept that sex is a spontaneously shocking experience.
But I'm saying to some stage or other, there is an element of shocking sex.
Not if children are properly educated about sex, and it's an obligation on society to see that children are given a far more comprehensive sexual education from a far earlier age.
But in that case, they find it out, they discover this with people of their own age and in their own time. And it is the question of inequality, which I come back to, which I think you have an answer.
Indeed, by your lights, the relationship is unequal in the same way that a teacher-child relationship is unequal, in the same way that a parent-child relationship is unequal.
The teacher is not exploiting the child sexually.
And nor is a pedophile. Pedophiles do not exploit children. Child molesters
using the child's sexuality.
No, pedophiles do not use a child's sexuality. Pedophiles develop a mutual sexuality with the child. It's an entirely reciprocal relationship.
But you can't say that because of this business of immaturity and the inequality of the relationship.
Yes, but the definition of maturity is yours. We don't share it.
Well, what is your definition of maturity in this context? So how can a child of 12 make a mature judgment about something like sex for the first time, which it has not the first idea about, and cannot possibly weigh the consequences of it?
You're imputing to a sexual relationship heavy judgmental issues. Which
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the physical and psychical response.
Yes. A child is able to recognise a pleasurable experience. He is able to recognise a pleasing emotional experience. He is able to express consent and to recognise that this is something he wishes to continue. And a responsible, caring paedophile, it always refers to the wishes of the child.
But even today, Tom O'Carroll argues he and other paedophiles should be allowed to have sex with children.
You keep saying, by the way, it's sex with children. It's not sex with children. It's sex, most people think, is sexual intercourse, penis in vagina, and a guy banging away until he gets orgasm. That's not what I mean by sex with children.
What are you talking about?
And I don't think we should talk in this sort of emotive fashion about sex with children.
What is a less emotive term?
Erotic contact with children.
And what would that involve?
Well, it might involve touching or masturbation.
In the warped view of the paedophile information exchange, the only harm caused by an adult having sex with a child occurs later, when the child is supposedly made to feel guilty about it.
If they were traumatised, they wouldn't have gone along.
You see, that's another lie that paedophiles spin. They say that the kids aren't traumatised.
Wait a moment.
Believe me, they are traumatised, Tom.
Yes, but many years later, as a result
Well,
of being
does that
told,
matter?
it matters because they would not have been traumatised, but for being told that they had been abused.
So this is the point. You'd say that it's not the pedophile that's caused the abuse, it's the responsible authorities like the police and
Yes,
their parents.
absolutely.
So you don't accept that having sex with a child can cause any kind of
Let me tell you, we're getting peculiarly hysterical. Many years later, when people are told that they have been abused and it keeps being rammed into them from the media all the time, then that is the feeling they come to get. They come to think, I must be traumatised because people keep telling me so.
Okay,
That's how it happened.
Can I put to you, there's something in your book. There's a section in your book where you describe the scenario of a little girl sitting on a man's knee.
Yes.
And you describe approvingly how sexual relations with that little girl can be, quote, negotiated by hints and signals, such as complimenting her on her knickers and testing her response.
Yeah.
And what would be the adequate response from that little girl, Tom?
Enthusiasm.
What would that constitute? How would the little girl show you enthusiasm for you wanting to have sex with her?
Let's move away from...
No. Let's stick to this issue.
Well, all right. Let's stick with the issue, but let me address it in my own way.
The little girl's sitting on your knee, and you've just told her, I like your knickers.
Let me address it in my own way.
What does that little girl do to indicate that she's willing to consent to have sex with you, Tom?
How does somebody indicate willingness to have consent to anything?
A little girl cannot possibly be a consenting partner in that kind of power relationship. She's sitting on your knee, for God's sake.
Yes, she can.
You're an adult.
Yes, she can.
You use the term enthusiasm. What does that little girl do to indicate that she's enthusiastic?
I think that we're going round and round in circles.
No, what is the answer?
We're going round and round in circles. I've given you my answer multiple times, so I'll finish there.
Which is a non-answer. You just can't answer.
Well, you think it's a non-answer. I think it's an answer.
So this is the area where my line of work comes in. I'm a criminologist. I specialise in child sex abuse, institutional abuse, perpetrators of abuse. I firmly believe that you can only safeguard a child from sexual abuse if you understand the mind of a perpetrator. Here we are producing policies based off stories of victims. Victim stories are important. Yes, they are. We need to understand the damage, okay? But a victim will never, ever, ever understand the grooming process. They'll never understand what the perpetrator's thinking of, the tactics they use and things like that. So that's where my line of work comes in. So when I'm dealing with stuff with the small children then in school like this, PANTS. Now, PANTS used to be a really good program. Privates are private, okay? Nobody looks, touches, or talks about your privates. But it's not that anymore, is it? It's changed. We are now introducing terminology for genitalia because apparently it safeguards. So think back to Tom O'Carroll now. What's going to happen when a child can confidently discuss their genitalia? What do the paedophiles think that is? They think it's consent. Now, I do not object to the teaching of correct terminology if that's what you want to teach your child, okay? Just be mindful of what they will see on the internet. The problem lies when we're teaching all children the same terminology for their genitalia, because then we have given predators passwords. So as you know, this stuff is promoted by the NSPCC. So for 4 years, I began challenging the NSPCC. So I took the approach through the contact forms. There is no direct line to these people. So I went through the contact forms. First of all, I wasn't getting any response. Then I took the more, a year later, I think it was, I took the more professional approach. I told them I was an RSE teacher trainer, criminologist, and I need that evidence to prove this safeguards. I've got paedophiles after paedophile after paedophile, study after study after study of paedophiles telling me they use stuff like this to engage children in activities. So if I've read all this stuff for the last 13 years, and now I'm coming across this through the NSPCC, I need the evidence. I need to know I'm wrong. I need to know I'm wrong, and I need to know they are right. Well, this evidence didn't come for a long time. Emails were exchanged, I'd gone back and forth, I even started challenging their posts on social media. All of their sponsored posts I was challenging. They could not give me the evidence. They said, this one here, they said in October 23, they'll get back to me in 10 working days. I emailed them again in December, this is a long working day. So here I am, I had a contact from somebody on Facebook, they'd given me this email address, I want the evidence to prove that this safeguards. So it just keeps going on and on and on, like there was none. Finally, 4 years later, they give me this evidence. 2 studies written by an academic called Walsh in New South Wales in Australia. It says nothing in there about correct terminology. It says nothing in there about good touch, bad touch. It says nothing in there about consent. Do you know what these studies are? They're an overview of sexual prevention programs in school. These are not worth the paper. They might be worth the paper they've written on for Australia. If they look into the sexual prevention programs there is nothing in there to tell us that teaching children correct terminology safeguards them. And that's something we've got a massive problem with. So I wrote back to them again and I asked them, would you be prepared to answer some questions regarding this? And they completely tapped out. They were not prepared to answer any questions at all on that. Then we were contacted by some guy called Derek Thomas from Parliament. He hadn't seen it actually, one of his constituents had seen a podcast where I'd explained the correct terminology. So they had gone to him. He had come to me asking me for the evidence. So I said, well, if you're prepared to learn, I'm happy to teach you. But you better have a lot of time and you better be prepared to do all the reading. It's not in one study, it's in hundreds of studies. So I said, better still, I said, why don't you go and ask the Department for Education for the evidence? So he went to the Department of Education for the evidence. And this was the response from the Department of Education. Teaching about body parts is often taught alongside education about privacy and boundaries, and the differences between appropriate and inappropriate and unsafe physical and other contact. Pupils are taught how to recognize and report feelings of being unsafe and how to ask for advice or help for themselves or others. We want children to be able to report concerns or abuse, and we have the vocabulary and confidence needed to do so. Again, there's no evidence. This is a big safeguarding thing that they are promoting, that they are sponsoring, that they've got teachers out there delivering to your children. There is a social worker from Somerset, Jock, 23 years in children's services, writing all over social media how important it is to teach your children correct terminology, because this is the experience he has from working with perpetrators. I thought you've been working in children's services the last 23 years. Which one is it? You don't work with perpetrators if you're in children's services. So again, that's just hearsay. That's another big fat lie. We've got our RSE consultant, Ian Timbrell, as well. He promotes this stuff on his website. Again, no evidence to support any of it. So when we are teaching small children the same terminology for their genitalia amongst adults, a different adult every year in school, strangers confidently discussing their genitalia, that child has now become fair game. We are grooming our children under the guise of safeguarding. So then this is another thing that really bothers me. Self-stimulation. This was in 241 schools in England. This package has also been used in Bari, okay? The All About Me package has been used there as well. So this particular part, again, is supposed to be safeguarding. There are also rules about touching yourself too. Now, lots of people like to tickle or stroke themselves as it might feel nice. They might play with their hair, stroke their skin, or they may even touch their private parts. This is really very normal. However, some people may get cross or say that it's dirty, especially when you touch your own privates. This is strange as it's really very normal. However, it is not polite to do it when other people are about. It is something we should only do when we're alone, perhaps in the bath or shower or in bed, a bit like picking your nose. It is certainly not polite to do in the class when everyone's watching. Now, let me just address this. There are children who touch themselves, okay? There are. But some children are doing it just because they do. Just distract them, all right? Just distract them. Some people are doing it because they've got a medical condition. Some people are doing it because they've been neglected. And some are doing it because they've been abused. All right? And as teachers and safeguarders, we are looking for these behaviours in children. It's called a non-verbal disclosure, okay? But now we've just programmed every 4-year-old not to do it in the classroom. We have just failed an entire nation of children. So that was the younger children. That's the bit I've got a massive problem with. Now we want to show you now what has come to us. So we're going to go up now to the comprehensive age children, and then Kath is going to address that.
And what happens in school last week?
I don't know, the teaching was saying no sex, I think. That's what I'm pretty sure it was.
So, what lesson was it? Was it helpful?
Sweet.
What's it called?
Sweet. I don't know what it stands for.
What? S-W-E...
S-W-E-E-T.
As in sweet. That's what your lesson's called. Was it your original teachers or was it outsourced?
Mr. Thomas, my real teacher.
So it was your real teacher. And what did they tell you to do exactly?
Search your phone or sex on our phone.
They told you to take your phone out and search.
And search your app.
And what did you do?
Nothing. I walked out.
You walked out to the class. So, what will happen to you now for walking out to the class? Will you get in? Will you have detention or?
Detention.
What, have you had detention for it?
No, not yet. But they will. They'll start giving detentions.
Why? What have they said? What did they say to you for walking out?
Nothing. She said you're not supposed to walk out. I had to go back in there.
And what did they make you do then when you went back in there?
Nothing. I refused to do it.
You refused to do it. Did everyone else do it or?
Yeah.
So they all did it. What were they all saying? Were they?
The one girl said that she couldn't do it because of the search history on her phone, and then all the rest were searching up on laptops.
And what were they saying about it? Did they have to have a discussion or anything about it after? Or?
I don't know. I wasn't in there.
Oh, you left.
Yeah.
And nobody else walked out with you?
No. The boys were running around for most of it, that was it.
So they were messing around and that. Did you want to do it? No. Do you think anyone else wanted to do it? No. No. Well, let me know what happens. If it gives you detention, tell them you've got rights and you don't have to learn that. You've got rights as a child. If you don't want to learn that, tell them you...
So that's the 15-year-olds getting detention because they don't want to stay in a lesson on porn. 14-year-olds. So this is a screenshot of social media. It's not hearsay. I'll be completely honest with you. This is a school my son used to attend. Today, my 14-year-old son had a lesson which a teacher told him he can identify as a cat, a zebra, or a kangaroo if he wants to. Then, in another lesson, they were given literature that states that adults use gags and handcuffs during sex, and that sometimes 3 or more people can partake in sex together. The class was then told to write down the names of 5 men and 5 women they find attractive, regardless of their sexual orientation. This stuff is real. Now let's look at the 12 and 13-year-olds, shall we? So this video was sent to us by a 12-year-old boy. We've got 12 and 13-year-olds written there because that was the age group. This 12-year-old boy said he didn't want to do it. He was traumatized, and the teacher said, tough, you have to do it. So that's age 12 to 13. Don't forget, age 12 is statutory rape age in this country. And then, last but not least, we've had a 12-year-old girl who walked out of lessons on porn, and she was told she was breaching the children's right to an education. So this is pretty much what our children are dealing with in schools right now, and Kath is going to cover some other dangerous things for you.
So yeah, guys, well done. So yeah, this is absolutely true. They are teaching pornography in school, and if it was the dangers of pornography, I wouldn't have an issue. Unfortunately, it's not the dangers of pornography. They're encouraging them, as you've just seen. So I don't know if any of you saw a couple of, I think it was 2 years ago, Miriam Cates went into Parliament and she read out some of the lesson content that was being put into the schools in England for 12-year-olds and upwards, from, I think it was School of Sexuality Education. There's many different ones. All of them are unregulated and unvetted, by the way. I just want to read some of the things that are in this lesson. Bearing in mind, 12-year-olds. Breathe, breathe, breathe. They're talking about anal sex, obviously. The key to enjoying anything that goes in your butt is to be relaxed. I am sorry, this is really graphic, but you need to know. Your anus tightens when you are nervous, even in a non-sexual setting, and if it's tight, there's no hope. If you do still try, it's going to hurt. Don't go straight into the full-on penis in butts. 12, by the way. Sorry, I just have to keep bringing that back. That will be a little bit of a shock. Play with your partner or by yourself with toys or fingers first. Get your body used to something going in instead of just things coming out. This was advice to the RSE teacher. It can be a good idea to leave feelings until last, but not always. For others, good sex is quick, rough, and anonymous. 12 years old, by the way. They're under the age of consent for a start. If you're saying 16 years old, I believe that's far too young anyway. But if we're going on the law, 12.
Statutory rape age.
Yeah. You can also explore the fact that some people enjoy feeling pain during sex, which is often referred to as kink or BDSM. As with all sexual practices, what matters is that sex is consensual. What did Kim say about consent? Teaching 3-year-olds out of consent? Very, very, very dangerous. So this was just a side note for, I think, the School of, the Department of Education. This was just comments on there, what was picked up through it. And as this document has shown, and I read it all, and it does show all this, I've just picked some bits out. As this document has shown, some of the results are indeed truly alarming, including the promotion or incautious introduction of trans identity, anal sex, pornography, sex toys, group sex, masturbation, drag shows, choking, explicit imagery, surrogacy, kink, and BDSM. All of this stuff is in there. This one here, another one. So they're basically teaching your children how to choke each other during sex safely. 12 years old. During choking, your brain is being starved of vital oxygen, which can induce a lucid yet semi-hallucinogenic state and may cause you to fade in and out of consciousness and may create a feeling of euphoria. The high that people experience soon after is due to the release of oxygen flowing back and the body exhaling. With an exhale, there is a release of dopamine and serotonin that can lead to a nice sensation as the body tries to recover itself. So they're promoting and encouraging this stuff. You can die from this. People die. Thousands of people die from this every year. And they're teaching children this. So I'm just going to, I've only got a few minutes, so I'm not going to go too much into this. I have done a proper presentation on this, and I'll tell you where to get it. But these are the, how porn affects the brain, literally brain damage. It causes brain damage. It causes a process of desensitization, and much of you will probably understand what happens here. Exactly the same with a drug as well. So because you build tolerance to a drug, you need more of it to get that same high. It's exactly the same as addiction to pornography. You start off with something soft, that doesn't arouse you anymore because you become desensitized to it, so you need something stronger and harder. And this is why we end up in I can't even say some of the genres of pornography that are out there, absolutely sick to the core. They really are, and I know some of you know what they are. So it obviously pushes the consumer. There's a demand that's created. And this is obviously from this, because what happens is it numbs the pleasure response in the brain. So when you're overstimulating one part of the brain, which is the reward center, you're taking away from another part. And the bit you're taking away from is the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is like the chief exec of the brain. It evaluates risk, reward, and danger. It's why it's not even developed until you're, I think, probably about 25, mid-20s. So in children, it's not developed at all. So if you can cause brain damage to an adult, introducing pornography to an adult, can you imagine how a child's brain is being rewired before this has even been developed, before it's even been established? So they did a a science experiment called the Coolidge effect. And they did this on rats, and then they did it on humans. And what they did was in a tank of rats, they put female rats on heat and then one male rat. The one male rat mated with every single female rat in there until it was absolutely exhausted, and then it passed out. And even when the other female rat still wanted to go, the male rat didn't, until a new female rat on heat was put into there, and then he got up straight away and mated with that female rat. So they did this to humans, and what they did was took healthy volunteers, they sat them in front of a screen, they would just put in one explicit picture on the screen, and they were showing that until the subject lost arousal, and then without telling them, they quickly changed the picture to something stronger, and then the subject maintained arousal, showing that you lose that tolerance, but when you put something stronger there, you get it back, which is why we end up in the realms of what they call child pornography, which is not child pornography at all. It's obviously children being raped and tortured online for people to enjoy, and that's the most, it deviates from the norm of anything. And that's where people get to this stage. Habituation is just basically when you get bored. Same thing as desensitization, really. You just become bored of it, and you need something stronger and harder to be able to maintain that arousal. This is a video. We don't need to watch this, really. It's we do. Yeah, put it on. It's only 30 seconds. This was from a documentary I watched called I Married a Paedophile. So bearing in mind, this man, he was a family man. I think he was a teacher. Family man. He had 2 teenage daughters, I think. And just listen to what he says. It's only about 20 seconds.
I knew I had a problem with porn probably 10 years ago. And at the time, I was just looking at normal adult material. But as I got bored with that, I looked for more extreme material. I kept trying to stop, but would always end up going back to it when things went wrong at work or in other parts of my life.
So I'll just butt in there now, because you've just heard from that guy there that he got bored and he went on to other things. You will hear stories from some psychologists that a paedophile is born. Mm-mm. But those psychologists didn't scan that brain before that brain was exposed to something. Mm-hmm. So they can't find these same images on a baby brain. So I would argue a paedophile is not born. A paedophile is created through the things they get exposed to, the rewiring of their brains. And this is why we've got children assaulting other children. They are suffering with brain damage, brain shrinkage.
Yeah, they really, really are. So talking about hypofrontality, it doesn't just correlate with pornography watching. It actually, watching pornography causes the brain the prefrontal cortex to become less than normal. And I'll show you some photos in a minute to prove that. So obviously, if this is why teenagers are so risky as well. They got no prefrontal cortex, so the behavior is erratic anyway. So when you're putting things like that in there, they're going to take it. They will, especially because of the dopamine release that people get from watching pornography. So what happens is, obviously dopamine's released during things that are positive, and the brain can be hijacked into thinking that's positive. And the more you use that part of the brain, the better you get at it. So, if you're practicing an instrument, or, you're doing a perfect golf swing and you get a hole in one, dopamine is released along with delta FOSB, and delta FOSB helps to remember it. And this is what's being hijacked in the brain. It's exactly the same neural pathway as chemical drug use, exactly the same. So we know how that works. It's the same thing, addiction. So there we go, the functions of the prefrontal cortex: planning, attention, judgment, reflection, prioritizing, self-control. So obviously, when we get these people, and we've all seen them, loads lately, but obviously, a paedophile's been caught, they've got child images on their devices. You've seen loads of them lately. It's constant. And they're normal people. They don't just wake up one day and go, actually, yeah, I quite fancy watching that. It's a process of desensitization. They lose self-control because their prefrontal cortex is not there. It's literally brain damage. Impulse control, that's another one. Second thoughts, modulating mood, response flexibility, goal-directed behavior, and foresee consequences. At that time, they don't see it until afterwards. So there we go. This really shocked me. So we got a healthy brain on the left. In the middle, we got a brain on heroin. But look at the right. That's your brain on pornography. Addiction to pornography scallops the brain worse than a heroin addict. That's how much it damages the brain. That's that constant dopamine hit after dopamine hit from that pornography. That's what it does. Unbelievable. So I've already spoken about this, but yeah, neuroplasticity. The brain can change itself responding to outside stimuli and experiences, and it creates those neural pathways. And the more you do something, the stronger that neural pathway will become. So the more you're watching pornography, the stronger that pathway will become, the stronger the need for it. You don't even want it anymore, but it's the desire. Your brain has been hijacked. Now, I'm talking about adults here. It really stresses me out when I think about a child, because all these children have got devices at age 5, 6. They are seeing pornography and they're becoming addicted to it. We know this. I think the youngest I've seen addicted to pornography is 9. 9 years old. Now, what Kim was saying about acting, where do you think they're going to go? What do you think they're going to do? Who do you think they're going to act it out on? Usually younger siblings. So obviously, the brain is completely hijacked with porn use. Like I say, I'm only scuffing over this. I will give you my website so you can find the longer presentation where I talk much more deeply into this. Supernormal stimulus. There was a guy called Nicholas Timberg, and he was a scientist, and he did an experiment with butterflies. And what he did was he made butterflies out of cardboard, and he made them really, really pretty, like really pretty colours and whatever, and he put them in an environment with butterflies, and then added real male butterflies. And the male butterflies were trying to mate with the cardboard butterflies. When he introduced female butterflies into the mix, the real female, but they ignored the female butterflies, the ones that were actually real, still carried on trying to mate with the supernormal. So this is what happens. Marketers, advertisers, filmmakers, they know this. They know how to trick somebody's mind and make something. So by comparison, normal becomes boring. So if you've been watching so much pornography with all this, the photo editing and everything else, then you were going to destroy your relationship, because by comparison, your wife just becomes just because the norm is not there anymore. They just becomes boring because you've overstimulated it. It's a fake stimuli, but it affects relationships massive. And then obviously this has tremendous implications, not just for relationships, but for everything, all types of relationships. It's really, really powerful, because your expectations will change. And we all know somebody, don't we, who's got that, real high expectation because they've seen so much fake, sex and what's going on. This is why people split up. A lot of the time it's down to pornography use, because they're looking for something better. They think that they're going to get something, and it's not real life above anything else. I will play this. Is it all right to play this? It's just a doctor explaining the scalloped brain.
Through research, and especially through SPECT scanning, we show that it's a brain problem, because we actually see that there's areas that are overactive or underactive. You get this rush of adrenaline, so he gets that high, that whether it's masturbation or whatever it is that gets him to that point. But then you have this, just say like cocaine, after it's over though, you'll see this decreased blood flow again to the prefrontal cortex. This is a scan of a sex addict brain, an 18-year-old sex addict brain. And we compare that to a normal brain, and at the naked eye, we can tell this is not normal. Now, if we compare that to someone who has cocaine addiction, this is a person who has cocaine addiction. As you can tell, in the prefrontal cortex and the parietal lobe, they're very similar, although you don't see the top part of this brain. The scalloping is about the same if we looked at this sagittally. The prefrontal cortex, for lack of a better word, is our CEO. It really controls every other aspects of the brain. So the whole front part of our brain, this is what makes us human in general. Usually in sexual addiction, there's some low activation here. Our CEO drops off, we don't make good decisions. Normally in naked eye, you can tell that this is not particularly normal or healthy. This person's just not using as much brain because they're used to using the sex and other things to make their brain active. So the excitement, of pornography. So we'll see a lot of the same deactivation from cocaine and sexual addiction. You can tell again from someone who's a normal brain, we obviously don't see that degree of scalloping. It takes over the mind.
So yeah, just obviously just to end there for me, for anyone who wants to look at my presentation, it's about an hour and a half, and I go a lot deeper than that, and obviously into the child sex abuse and whatever, and historically into the pornography industry. If you go to my website, www.exposingthelie.info, and you have to write it exactly like that or you won't find me. But if you go on there, go into my videos, it's called the Catastrophic Effects of Pornography. You'll find it there. So thanks for listening, guys. Sorry about the harrowing part of it.
Yeah, details of Kat's website is on the back of the programme anyway, guys. So throughout the day, we've brought a lot of stuff to you, a lot of problems, but you have experienced a bit of the pushback as well, and that's what we are about. The biggest pushback of all is knowledge is power. You can't fight against something you don't know. If you don't know the enemy, you can't fight against it, you can't protect against it. Advocacy and representation. You've seen that this afternoon on the stage. You've seen it with Chelsea's case, you've seen it with Maggie's case. It's getting the courage to stand up for yourself. And when you can stand up for yourself, you stand up to the person next door. And when you can stand up for the person next door, that person can stand up for somebody else. And then we'll have a ripple effect. It's all about bravery, advocacy, rights and representation. And when you're advocating for each other, you're representing each other, the fight goes so far, we create case law. You don't have to fully win your case to create case law. You know, you can quote judges from cases that weren't successful because what matters is how the judge summed that case up. So case law is very, very important as well. Education and training. So for us, we have recently written a sexual safeguarding training programme. We've been piloting it around Wales. We've been changing it with the feedback we've had, and we're about to get that fully accredited. We're also going to work with Dr. Lisa over there and some of her contacts. We're going to produce a 12-step process for sex-addictive children. So there are these packages out there for adults, but there's nothing out there for children. So that's something that we really want to be working on. We want to give you guys strategies when these things come to your door, when this stuff is happening in your house. We want to give you guys places to go and positive strategies with that. Challenge red flags. If it doesn't feel right or it makes you question it, you challenge it. There's no such thing as a stupid question or a stupid suggestion when we're discussing children. We only regret the things we don't do. And last but not least, we form a coalition. And I think we've demonstrated that today as well with our ladies too much too young. Azar and the Birmingham boys. Lisa Nolan. The Diamonds. And last but not least, the one-man army over there, Nigel Thorne. But there's a little something else that's been going on behind the scenes. And I know we're about to run out of time, but I just want to show you all there's another coalition going on.
My name's Rachel, I'm from Australia and I'm a mother of 5 and my friend and I, Angela, we've been going around the state of South Australia informing parents about what's in the curriculum. I have the curriculum and I can tell you it's not innocent and there's a lot of stuff in there that would make you blush. It makes adults blush. So we really shouldn't be showing it to children, and one of the most massive red flags for us is that it's all a secret. Everything we've asked to see, all the videos we've asked to see, we've done freedom of information through politicians and they've refused us access. And if anything is a secret from parents about their children, that's just a red flag. And that's something we're trying to expose, is that there are secrets around this sex ed curriculum. And there just shouldn't be any. and parents should be totally involved and totally aware of what their children are learning. So this issue is not in Australia alone. It is all over the world. It's the same phrasing, it's the same words, it's the same tactics. So there's a greater plan at play here, and they're really trying to sexualize a whole generation of children. So I truly believe the key is us talking about it, exposing it, and everyone sort of becoming aware of what's really going on, and that we take back parenting, and instead of just leaving it up to screens and schools and departments and governments to raise our children, it's on us to raise our children. We need to be the ones stepping up and standing to protect our kids. So Kim and the team, well done for what you're doing, and we're working together across the globe to protect our children.
Hi everyone, my name is Ron Herman. I'm a former educator in British Columbia, Canada. I was the first whistleblower to expose the indoctrination and corruption in our schools. I was so disgusted and disturbed about what was going on, I had started a podcast called RH Media Standing for Children, and advocating and telling parents on what is happening in our world. The other key thing that is happening in schools in British Columbia is drugs. Drugs are being promoted by our educators, by our government. There were safe snorting kits that were given to students. Outside of our schools, our health minister, along with our government, has been supplying fentanyl to youth without parental consent. They can just go ahead and prescribe. So now we have a fentanyl epidemic. We have parents who have drug-addicted kids, and there's no place for these parents to go. We have hospitals that have vending machines outside where you can just go and order your own drugs right there with a pipe and whatever drug you're needing. And it is absolutely insane what is happening in our society and in our governments and in general public. One of the things that people don't know in Canada is that parents absolutely have no rights at all. Under our Infant Minor Act, when children want to get a vaccination, to get medical sterilization, to get any of these surgeries, they do not need parental consent. In fact, if parents are wanting guardianship over their kids, it's actually taken away and stripped. And we have gone as far as a parent here in British Columbia who went to prison, solitary confinement, for standing in front in the school system because his 15-year-old daughter was wanting to transition with the help of a school counselor, with not notifying the parent that this was happening. So when parents stand up in trying to protect their children, we have the Ministry of Children and Families who are taking their own kids out of their homes, saying they're neglectful. We've got parents who are being imprisoned. We also have some parents who are being gaslit, shamed, ostracized in their community or church and in their job. So it is really hard for parents to stand up and protect their children in what is happening because they absolutely have no rights, and the school, government, and ministry has more rights over your children than the parents themselves. The outcome that's happening with trustees and teachers like myself who are speaking out is that they are being tried and convicted of pedophilia or whatever it is, in stopping the harms that are happening to children regarding this SOGI agenda, which is sexual orientation, gender identity, which our own government created against parents. So we have one very well-known trustee here who's gone to Supreme Court, also along with the Human Rights Tribunal, for him stopping and preventing the harms that are happening to children. We have teachers who've been spoken out, who've been put on leave without pay. We've had some teachers who have tried to leave and they had a mental breakdown. They were such shamed, ostracized, and including myself, when I spoke out in schools, I was ostracized, shamed, and bullied for not conforming with the agenda that the schools wanted to roll out. Where we are now in Canada in this fight is awareness. When I started this podcast a few years ago, there was many parents who were not aware of the issues that they were facing in the schools as they were at work. So the biggest thing I think we've come is parents are aware of what's happening. They're aware of these agendas. They're aware of these school policies and school acts that are not in favor of the parents or even a relationship with the school. And I would say that the drawback, because Canada is such under a communist Marxist rule right now, that we're at a standstill with trying to get justice, because our courts, our lawyers, our judges, our police, our own government, politicians are all very corrupt, and it makes it really hard for parents to push back. So my biggest suggestion to all parents in Canada is to homeschool. Therefore, you can keep your children safe. You are in charge of the curriculum and education that is around them, and you don't have to worry about all of these things that are happening against you as the parent. And that is my suggestion to all parents in Canada. I would suggest truly to unify all countries in combating this issue, because we are stronger together. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Good evening. This is Jana London, founder of the Natural Women's Council. It's been a really busy week, given what has come out in the not so mainstream news here in Ireland. But pushing that aside, we still have work to do. When people pressure you and try to censor and silence you, you have two choices. You can be silent and self-censor, or you can keep on going and keep on speaking and focus on the job at hand. And the mission is to protect children and safeguard children's education from woke, radical political ideologies and indoctrination. I'm choosing that option. So let's go on to our event. The Natural Women's Council is having our first big annual event on the 5th of April, 2025. It's going to be a fantastic day, and it will empower parents and guardians with the knowledge needed to safeguard children in the education system. We're going to show you some of the content and walk you through the toolkits and textbooks. We're going to share with you what the language really means in education. We'll talk about how the education system got so corrupt. We'll talk about what legislation is coming up, what's already in place that should be a big concern for parents. We have expert panels, medical experts, some doctors talking about the risks of puberty blockers and hormones and surgeries to these innocent children. We have a panel of legal experts and also teachers. Finally, there'll be a networking and expo visit at the end of the conference, where you can meet some of the people at our stalls and review some of the material and ask questions. So parents are busy. I get that. I'm a busy mom as well. This is going to be a packed day. In just 6 hours, you're going to learn what you need to know to safeguard your children. Arm yourself with knowledge so you can be empowered. So please book your tickets on naturalwomenscouncil.ie. It's for the 5th of April, and it's going to be a great day. This certainly is the information that the state does not want to get out, but it is going to come out, and I'll see you there.
Hello to Kim and everyone there from Ireland. I've been following the situation in Wales for a number of years, and my heart goes out to all of you. Some very wealthy individuals and the international institutions that they control have gone all in on promoting the indoctrination and the sexualisation of children in our schools. And unfortunately, many of our national representatives have been only too willing to carry out their wishes. We stand with you and every parent on the planet to advocate for the protection of children, and the task of mobilising a sufficient number of parents so that we maybe achieve this objective has been challenging, but we will get there. It's only a matter of time, and in that meantime we have to minimise the harm done. We stand with you for this battle of the truth and the long-term welfare of our respective nations' children. There isn't anything more important. So God bless you. Hope you have a great day there. I look forward to working with some of you in the days, weeks and months ahead. God bless.
So that's the International Child Safety Alliance. And I was delighted, after a meeting, we decided that the mantra was protect childhood, and that's the same mantra that the girls from Too Much Too Young use as well. So that brings us to the end of the day, guys. What can you do to support us? You can subscribe to our website, promote our work. It's vitally important work. We're still in infancy, but we've done really well so far. Work with us. What I mean by work with us is if you see things online that you don't like or you would like us to put out there, write it up. You don't have to have great spelling, you don't have to have great grammar. Write it up. Write us a blog, send it over. We'll get Joan to look at it. We can publish it on the website. Our website is not for us, it's for the country. We are not technical. There's some things we can do, some things we can't do. And that's why we ask you guys. Everything that you can give us, we can get out there for the children. This needs to grow, and it's only going to grow if we work together. Join our training. If you see any of our training out there, guys, we need your feedback to make it better. We need you to endorse our training. And when you endorse our training, we can put it out there in the public, communities, professional organisations. We can protect our children. And last but not least, donate to the cause. Every single penny we receive is from the members of the public. We have paid our court fees with the members of the public. And, well, we travel all around the country, going into different conferences, meeting new people, getting more donations because of what we get from you guys. Not only do we do that, when we deal with cases as well, when we got really important cases, we support parents. Sometimes if they need private consultants, private reports done, that's what we do. So our immediate aim now is to get our new course accredited. We're going to do a little bit more work on it. We're going to expand the porn area. And then we're also going to be working on producing that 12-step program for sexually addicted children. So every penny that we get from you guys goes to fantastic work. We are protecting the children. You know, you don't even have to donate yourselves. Have a sponsored walk, have a sponsored something, join our skate-a-thons, make it fun. Because if you make it fun and you have big sponsored events, you have to tell people what that event is about. And when you tell people what that event is about, we are spreading the message, aren't we? Public Child Protection Wales says exactly what it says in the tin. We are the public protecting the children in Wales. And we are going to do this. We are going to win. We will make Wales the safest place in the world for raising and educating children. We'll do with our UK coalition, and we'll also do with our global coalition. Thank you all for coming today.